Coming up on the Raptor Report, we'll be talking with Phil Nana, head coach of MC Women's Soccer, about his team's outstanding 2018 season. Hi, everybody. I'm Michael Brown, and this is the Raptor Report. And on today's show, I am pleased to welcome in the head coach of MC Women's Soccer, Phil Nana. Phil, thanks for coming back and joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Well, Phil, let's talk about another terrific season for MC Women's Soccer.
Yeah.
Your third here as head coach at Montgomery College.
Yeah.
You guys finished 12-3 overall.
Yep.
You won the Maryland JUCO title. That's your second Maryland JUCO title in just 3 years here, which I know for a fact has never been done in women's soccer.
Wow.
And you finished second in the NJCAA Region 20 D1 championship.
Yeah.
All the while, you guys were competing at D1 for the first time ever.
Yeah.
So that was a whole challenge for this season.
Definitely.
So there's a lot to talk about here. But let's go back to August when it all began. You guys got together, had your preseason practice, and then things got off to kind of a rough start, right?
Yeah, it was a very rocky start for us. I think coming into preseason, we knew it would be a tough season for us. One of the biggest things, of course, was going from Division III to Division I. That huge transition there, not just in the fact of us playing, but the mental pressure that it put on the girls, I think was big for them. The fact that we're bringing scholarship athletes to also compete was also, for the girls, a new thing for them. So I think we got off to a rocky start because of that. Also, we got off to a rocky start because, like, we're graduating so many seniors from the year before, and we're having to incorporate this freshmen to come in and play at a high level. And, of course, not just at a high level, but a Division I high level. So I wasn't really super surprised that we didn't do well. The first game I thought was a game that we could have gotten out of there with a tie, maybe even the win, because I think we went up 1-0 first. I thought we could have easily shared points there. The second game was against Hartford, who is not just a powerhouse in Maryland JUCO, but a powerhouse in the nation. I think they're always ranked in the top 10 in Division I. So I knew it'll be a really tough game for us. So yeah, getting off to that start, it was, I don't want to say it was discouraging. The first game was a little bit disappointing. I thought we could have done better. The second game, I thought
you played them real well. It was a 2-1 match, right?
Yeah, it was 2-1. I think we controlled possession. I think time of possession was probably like 60% to 40% us. We had more shots on target. We just didn't put away our chances. They got 2 opportunities and they took advantage of it, which is what Division I teams will do.
And that was a road game as well.
Yeah.
Which adds another degree of difficulty.
Yeah, it adds a lot, especially for the freshman players who aren't used to traveling and playing on the road. So, it was a rude awakening, but I think it was something that we needed, those first 2 losses, because as soon as we got back from the Hartford game, I let the girls have it. Even at halftime, I don't know if you guys can hear me from the stands, I was just livid. And they responded really well coming into that week of practice after the Hartford game. I think the captains had a lot to do with it. I also think just the overall standard that the girls hold themselves to played a huge role in them realizing that we cannot lose these type of games, and went on to win 12 in a row. So.
Yeah, I mean, you took the words right out of my mouth. You turned things around immediately. Yeah. You reeled off 12 straight wins, all the way to the regions. Yeah. What were some of the games that jumped out at you during that streak that let you know, hey, I got a seriously good team here?
Yeah. So immediately following that Hartford game, we traveled to New York to play Monroe. Which Monroe is one of the tougher teams usually in Division I soccer. Also that trip, we left out of our traveling squad, I think, who coming into the season was supposed to be one of our best players, Alexa. She was a player that I thought would be like an All-American. So the first 2 games, she wasn't really given what we expected out of her, especially being a scholarship caliber athlete. So we made a bold move as a coaching staff and decided to leave her out of our lineup, which was we already had a small squad to begin with. And, you know, we decided to leave her out of the 18 that traveled. And I think that sent the message out to the whole team. So I think that was massive. It was a risk because you're leaving out one of your best players. It could backfire. You could go out there, you can lose horribly, and you'll be the one to blame for leaving out such a player. Or you can send a message to the girls that even though you're considered one of the best on the team, you have to perform game in, game out, 90 minutes without any questions asked. And I think that sent the right message. So going up to New York, you know, with the mindset of we have to come out with nothing less than the win, really resonated amongst the team. So getting up there, we ended up beating that team like 17-0 or something like that. And I'm sitting on the sidelines as a coach, and I wanted to, my goal for that game was not to do any kind of, we call it joysticking, where you have to tell the girls, be here, pass there, do that, do that. My goal was to, I know they're great players. I think they have to believe they're great players first before we can see any kind of production. So I told them I wasn't going to say anything. They would coach themselves. They would bring themselves up. They need to find their own way to motivate, their own way to grow, and their own way to play. And I think that sent a massive message to the team. And they went out and got 17-0 against a team that was pretty good. And they played phenomenal. One of the best soccer games I've ever seen any of my teams play in my 3 years of being here. So it's good.
That's great. So that kind of turned things around, and then you went on to claim the Maryland JUCO title, your second in just 3 years here as a head coach.
Yeah.
Now I know there's some that say, the Maryland JUCO title, it's not that important because it doesn't determine if you go to nationals, which is true. But I'm guessing you disagree with that philosophy.
Oh yeah, I strongly differ, especially in soccer, for men's and women's soccer. The Maryland JUCO, at the D1 and the Division III level, if you get out of this conference, this Maryland JUCO, usually our teams make it to like the semis of nationals, usually. So like Hartford, that got out D1 last year, made it all the way to the finals of nationals. So yeah.
All right, we're going to get right back to that. We're going to take a real quick break.
Okay.
We'll be right back with more with Phil Nana on the Raptor Report.
We don't all start in the same place, but we all deserve the same chance. Montgomery College graduates rise up and say, I am MC. If you are the first in your family graduating from college, worked while attending college, are a military veteran, service member, or reservist, education empowers you to make an impact on your life, your family, your community, and the world.
Welcome back. Phil, we were talking about winning the Maryland JUCO title and how important you feel that is.
Yeah, I think it's a massive title, especially in soccer, because like I was saying, it's a competitive title to win. If you win that title, that pretty much to me, that not just symbolizes you're best in Maryland JUCO, but you're best in the nation, because whoever wins that title, no matter what, when they go up to Division III nationals, Division I nationals, they always make it to either the finals or semifinals. So they're always usually cream of the crop coming out of this region. So winning that title, I think, is huge. It's similar to what you would consider the FA Cup for English football. It's not, you know, the Premier League Cup like we would want to win, or Champions League, which is essentially nationals, but it's a cup that symbolizes you are one of the best out of all the teams in that region, and it's a competitive region. So.
Now, let's talk about the team in general. We'll talk about some of the individual performances in a moment, but let's talk about the team in general. You already alluded to the fact that it was a small roster. Yeah. But it was a gritty bunch of young women. I tell you, they played really hard. You had a lot of players who had to play 90 minutes because of the size of the roster. How did you guys kind of get through it? 15-game season, tough season, multiple weeks where you had more than one game in the week. How did you guys persevere through that as a small team?
So there were multiple things which coming into the season, we try to implement as a coaching staff to kind of help us through that, because we can kind of see, well, one of the biggest things is our philosophy as coaches, which is very contrary to what you see in a lot of American soccer due to the rules, is we don't sub a lot. I don't know if you've seen this in my games. We try to make sure our starting 11, they're all usually 90-minute players. They all play 90 minutes. This is something which I've seen in my stint in Germany. I've seen in just overall in soccer, usually your starting 11 plays 90 minutes. You only sub in case of injury or a tactical change. At the next levels, you're only given 3 subs per game. So even though you can have an 18-man roster, which means 11 start, and then you have 7 on the bench. Out of those 7, you can only make 3 substitutions. I carry that same mythology to here. Even though the rules, you can sub whenever you want, you can have unlimited players on the bench, I still don't do that. What I try not to do is reinvent the wheel. I think that serves as competition, which motivates the girls to work harder. 2, I think when we're subbing constantly, it takes away from the flow of the game. A lot of players, and me alike, the more you play, the more you get the flow, the more you start to gel, the more you start to get the game going. And when you're constantly subbing in and out, that takes away. So that's one thing. That's an aspect which we try not to generally do. And that played into our hands having a small roster, was the fact that we already told these girls, if you're coming into our team, as the recruits, as returners, you're expected to play 90 to 120 minutes a game. So they already had that mindset. 2, we implemented a lot of physical training and preseason stuff that would allow us to perform at higher levels for longer periods of times and to be able to withstand and prevent injury, which was one thing which we had trouble with last year. Right. So we brought in a lot of things. We implemented a lot of things, stuff like plyometrics training, which encompasses a lot of injury prevention, strength and conditioning, flexibility, all that encompassed in one. So plyometric exercises, which we do twice a day, before practice, after practice. And the girls are like, oh my God, it's so tedious. But in the long run, we knew why we were doing those things. So that allowed us to be able to have players that can play 2 games in a week, 90 minutes, 120 minutes, and play at a high level without, too much fatigue or injury. We didn't have a single injury all season. And it was kudos to our athletic staff, Ms. Carey, the trainers, all of them did a great job for us, but the girls also did really, really good taking care of their bodies.
They sure did. We only have a couple of minutes left, but I do want to touch on some of the outstanding individual performances that you guys had this year. You had 3 players make first-team Maryland JUCO, Ariella Amaguana, V. Rodriguez, and Gabby Fernandez. Maggie Prokoff made honorable mention. So a lot of great performances out of this gritty bunch of young women.
Yeah, I mean, these girls are phenomenal players. I mean, you could just go on and look at their stats. I think in the region and in the conference, we went for goals. I think we went first and second. With Ariella and Viviana. With assists, I think we again went first and second with Viviana and Ari and Gabby. And there are lots of players who didn't really get highlighted because you don't see what they do with the stats. But we had a really, really strong bunch of girls. Tenacity was their key, and they fought every single game. They worked hard, and they get to reap the benefits of what they sowed with stuff like things like this all-region players. And in fact, we have 3 All-American nominees in Viviana, Gabriella, and Ariella. So. I mean, it's kudos to them. Their hard work over the years.
So I can't wait. Hopefully, very soon we'll find out about the All-Americans. I definitely think we should have somebody on there, at least one.
For sure.
So you and I could talk all day about women's soccer, but we are out of time. But before we do go, I want to encourage everyone to follow Raptor Athletics on social media, on Facebook and on YouTube. You can follow them at the Raptors MC. On Twitter and Instagram, you can follow the Raptors at MC_Raptors. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at MC_Raptor Voice. Phil, congratulations again on a great season, and thank you very much for coming in.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to sit and chat with you.
All right. Well, thanks to all of you for joining us today on the Raptor Report. We'll be back soon with an all-new show.